Good evening, everybody. I'll just run through some housekeeping prior to tonight's business. We're not expecting a fire drill. If the alarm does sound, please follow officers who will lead you to the nearest fire exit, and we will gather at the assembly point, which is on Believe Square. Officers will assist members who are in the public gallery. Can I remind members of the need to respect each other, and I will continue to chair these meetings fairly and to show impartiality. Everyone is welcome, but should be aware that they should not interrupt or disrupt the proceedings. No one in the public gallery may take part in the meeting. Disruption may result in removal from the public gallery or an adjournment of the meeting in accordance with Rules 18 and 19 of the Council's Rules of Procedure in the Constitution. The rules of conduct for the meeting have been circulated to all members in advance of the meeting. Item number 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have apologies from Councillor J Bullen, Councillor Crosby, Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Hodgkinson, Councillor P Molyneux, Councillor Ramsdale, Councillor J Prescott, Councillor P Prescott, Councillor Talbot. Do we have any further apologies this evening, members? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda, the minutes of the meetings held on the 24th of September and the 4th of November. I'll move that the acceptance of these meetings held on the 24th of September 2024 and the 4th of November as a correct record. Leader, do you wish to second? Thank you. No amendments have been made, so can I put the minutes to the vote? All those in favour of accepting the minutes, please show. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The minutes of the meeting are accepted. Item number 3, Mayor's announcements. King's Award for Voluntary Service. On behalf of the Council, I would like to offer congratulations to the following groups who have all been awarded the King's Award for Voluntary Service. Butts Park Community Bowling Club, Empathy Northwest, Happy Smiles Training CIC, Lee Miners Rangers Rugby League Academy, and Shevington and District Community Association. And we have sent letters of congratulations to everyone. Thank you. Item B, Youth Cabinet. UK Parliament took place last week, and it was estimated to have engaged with over 2 million of our young people across every nation and region across the UK, and also many countries across the world. In recognition of this, I've offered our Youth Parliament members the opportunity to address the Chamber tonight to share with us some of the projects that they are currently working on. And I want to thank Democratic Services for liaising and doing that as well. So I'd like to now introduce Eddie, Alex and Thomas from Wigan and Lee Youth Parliament.
Good evening. Firstly, I'd like to thank Madam Mayor for giving us this time, and to thank everyone here tonight for allowing us to update you. I'm Eddie, and I was elected as Campaigns Coordinator in February this year. My manifesto and pledge to the young people of our borough was to work with decision makers to source more funding for both council and third sector activities for young people.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm Alex, and I've been elected as Wigan's Member of Youth Parliament. In the organisation ceremony, when the election results came in, it was a very proud moment for me. But it got even better because Wigan Athletic went on to beat Bolton Wanderers. I have pledged to our young people to try and get more or even free provision for them to engage with. Cost should not be a barrier to our young people. I would also like to see an improvement in mental health services.
Thank you. Good evening, I'm Thomas, and I too was elected in as Member of Youth Parliament for Wigan. Just under 14,000 young people voted in this year's elections, which tells us that they want their voices heard and acted upon. During my term of office, I'd like to see old and unused buildings repurposed to create youth provisions and access to mental health support for young people.
We are all part of Youth Cabinet, which is a very diverse and proactive group of young people from across the borough that meet every week. As a collective, we are extremely passionate and work hard to bring about positive change for young people of our borough. We work with elected members, the senior decision makers, partner agencies and MPs to help us achieve this change.
To bring around this positive change as a group, we work at a local, regional and national level. We have representatives who attend the Greater Manchester Youth Combined Authority meetings, working closely with Andy Burnham and the GMCA. We also have reps that contribute and participate in the GMB Heard Mental Health meetings to help shape and improve services for our young people throughout Greater Manchester. Youth Cabinet attends North West initiatives too, to gain further support from senior decision makers to ensure that our young people's voices are listened to at any possible opportunity.
On a national level, the members of Youth Parliament and the deputies work closely with other elected members from across the UK to ensure that the local issues and those voices of local young people are fed into the national arena. We meet in person around 4 times a year as a collective of elected members to represent our individual local authorities. The young people of our borough tell us what they need in Wigan and what they would like changes on, which is fed back via the National Youth Agency to central government. In March, we will be debating the issues that young people have raised within the Houses of Commons to prioritise the top issues which need to be addressed.
Moving forward, we like to work more closely with you all to ensure we have the right support and influence to bring about the positive changes that the young people of our borough need and, most importantly, what they deserve.
We want to encourage more young people to become politically active, to work with you as the elected members for where they live and attend your surgeries to share their concerns. These young people will become your voters over the next few years and need your guidance to make good, informed choices for their futures.
There are so many of you tonight that can help us further support the young people of Wigan. So please work with us, come along to our meetings and listen to what we have been doing and what our plans are for the future.
Thank you everyone for listening and giving us this opportunity. Hopefully, in the future, we can use this platform again to keep you all updated and involved with our work. Together, we can make these changes.
I just want to say thank you to Alex, Thomas and Eddie, and I think you did a brilliant job there. Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda, declarations of interest. The monitoring officer has provided advice to all members and relevant guidance has been issued. Members are asked to consider relevant interests for the purpose of this meeting, and if there are any interests to be declared, you must leave the room during the relevant item. Please fill out the form on your agenda and return this to the Democratic Services officers at the end of the meeting if you wish to declare any. Item number 5, update from Cabinet portfolio holders. I'd like to invite members of the relevant Cabinet portfolio holders to deliver their updates.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I just want to take a moment to reflect on the last year and give you some updates in regards to community safety across the borough. First of all, I just want to remind everyone that today is the start of the White Ribbon campaign, and I'm pleased to see so many people wearing your white ribbons today. It's also part of our 16 days of action that will take place from tomorrow, critically raising awareness of domestic abuse and challenging those attitudes towards it as well, opening up reporting lines and encouraging people to come forward as well. Alongside this, we've got the Love Is Not Abuse campaign, which is an award-winning campaign which will kind of continue over those 16 days, as well. This is a powerful and impactful campaign around education and awareness and supporting those, whether you're a male, female, child involved in domestic abuse, and ensuring that you get the services that you need. Next, I want to also just acknowledge, and today I've just come from the Community Safety Partnership Board, which I chair, and we just heard the great performance that is kind of taking place in Greater Manchester Police, and in particular in this borough. Looking back 2 years ago into this position we were in and looking at where we are now, response times have vastly improved on grade 1 and grade 2 responses, where GMP are turning up to those incidents quite quickly and quite swiftly. And the mood around the room was very much that we're feeling that impact now. There's still some way to go, and I acknowledge that, but it's about holding the GMP to account, but also working in partnership with them. A great example of where we've worked in partnership is with Operation Handbrake and seizing off-road vehicles in and across the borough, and that went on to get wider recognition in Greater Manchester and became Operation Hurricane. And only this week we've attracted the One Show as well, who wanted to know more about that. So my job now, on behalf of everyone in the room, is to keep that on the agenda, make sure that it doesn't fall away, because I know there's been some incidents recently in Hindley in particular, which have hit the local press, and it's for me now to take that up and show I'm shouting on your behalf as well. And I'm very acutely aware of issues around Pennington Flash and Lowton, and these have been brought to my attention also as well. I just want to say, well, this success and this teamwork is going from strength to strength, and we've invested over £300,000 now into community safety in this year so far in terms of community projects, but also improving what we can deliver through our buy and for services as well. This is supporting a range of activities aside from the council's core budget, because we get a grant from the Deputy Mayor, and we're very grateful from the Mayor's office as well. This has also led to another good achievement for Wigan Borough. We've retained our purple flag status as well, which is a good sign of a safe and vibrant night out here in the town centre. And again, a good example of partnership work with GMP and the council in driving that forward. In particular as well, we'll be enhancing over the next couple of weeks our town centre wardens offer that we have in both Wigan and Leigh, enhancing the services around trading and trading standards and licensing alongside as well. So we will see an enhanced offer over the darker nights and the extra trading hours that will be taking place as we come to the run up to Christmas. Finally, I just want to take a moment as well to recognise one of our council officers in this update. And this last year has been quite challenging. There's been some really high-profile issues in the borough in particular, and this has been around our debates with Serco, Killycourt, Britannia, but also a number of domestic abuse homicides as well. And through all of that, I just want to recognise Sir Owen, who's been kind of tenacious in making sure that we get what we need in our borough, voicing the opinions of not just our elected members but of our residents as well, and ensuring that that is heard at multiple levels as well. So despite that, we've still been able to maintain good dedicated day-to-day services alongside that. So I just want to recognise her effort has come nothing short as commendable over this last 12 months. In summary, I just want to say together we are building a much stronger, safer community here in Wigan Borough. There is still some way to go, and I do acknowledge that, but it's about working together, working effectively, raising the issues as and when they are occurring, and ensuring we've got the right people around the right tables as well to have those constructive and using the appropriate channels as well to get our voices heard. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Firstly, can I thank Councillor Gregory, who asked me a question a couple of weeks ago about how we support our communities and our community organisations with projects in the community outside of council funding. Firstly, I want to praise the communities team led by Sonia, Andrea and Nicola, who I've been out with them recently for the last couple of months and seen all groups, and the reputation that they've got out in the communities is second to none. And I think it takes a lot of building up. No matter what we say, what we do, when you go out, you can actually feel and see the response they get there. You will all remember in the leaders' announcements in the budget of putting funding into our communities. And one of those things we've been working on behind the scenes is strengthening our communities team by our funding. You'll all know Tracy Wormold, and when we brought Tracy in, it was to work with groups to help them to fill forms in, to apply for funding. And to be quite honest, we thought that was the way forward, but as with anything, and people who know me, if it's not working quite right, we'll always look to change it. And it was too much for groups, a lot of them, to do that, volunteers. So we knew we had to strengthen that team and give Tracy support. So we brought somebody in to sit along Tracy, and that's reaping fourfold with lots of money coming in outside. I think we were second in GM of bringing funding from outside. So it's a really big thing for them. But one of the things I want to kind of touch on is crowdfunding, and lots of us have spoke about it, and some people who have spoken within the council didn't know about it. But it's a real great way for communities to gel with their own community organisations, but also the wider community, for them to support that organisation. You'll always know if it's a successful organisation if the community is willing to support it. And what we've done with that is we're willing to support that as a council, and that's you people in here. So what we do with the crowdfunding is we will match up to 50%, up to a maximum of £2,000. And just give you an example of that. And I can send these things out to all members anyway, so you can feed it back through organisations who we don't know. So if an organisation just wants to go for a small amount of £200, we'll match that with £100. They only need to raise £100. And that goes further down the scheme as we do it. So if somebody wants to go in for a big scheme and they've got a target of £5,000, we'll put that £2,000 into that, so they only need to raise 3. Now you might say, oh, that's good, we're putting council funding in there. But what that means is there's a lot more money being raised apart from the council funding, but also it builds that community ethos up there that people are supporting. So whether it's sports clubs or community organisations, and the figures that are coming in already are vast. For us putting a small amount in, it's really working fourfold. So it's a really good one. There are a couple of other things just to touch on. Every week the funding office, and now there's 2 of them, host drop-in sessions at one of our libraries, and that's well communicated on the web. So I'd encourage all groups who you know to go along to that. People have come to me and really reap rewards on that. There's a newsletter goes out on a weekly basis to all the sector, telling of all these schemes and everything they do. But there's lots and lots of things happening within the communities. We've just now done the community fund, which was up to 2,000, and we had nearly 80 applications in there. We couldn't fund them fully, but naturally people can top that up with Brattleboro if they want to do it, and it's their choice. But really lots of work going into communities, work to raise funding from outside of the council, but also within. And it really has become that really supportive ethos with our teams. And I've got to put credit down to the team, what they've done really. I just want to touch on a couple of things before I finish. Over the past few months, I've been visiting all our libraries, and I've been blown away with the staff and the way they kind of approach things. We've had some visits recently from authorities who've closed a lot of libraries, and they did that many years ago. We've always stuck to that at Wigan, keeping the libraries and keeping those buildings, because they are hubs within our communities. So I've got a big thing there to Joe Mitchell and Craig Jones who've been doing that, but I think the commercial aspect that we brought to that is second to none, making them buildings usable and a hub for our communities. And long live our libraries in this borough, because they will do as long as I'm here. We just had a Christmas book fair in Wigan Library when nearly 500 people came into that building to look at it, and then all local authors. It just is another example of everything working together in Wigan, when other boroughs are very proud of what we do here. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Can I just say that was brilliant? Thank you. I've actually been to the Youth Cabinet meetings. I love them, and everything that you do is incredible. We really need to go and see them and listen to what they're doing. It's the best democratic meeting I've actually been to, and they've got so many fantastic ideas. So I just would recommend it. But you need to get on the waiting list, because quite honestly, trying to get in to see them, there's a lot of people who are wanting to get their views and get involved with them. So thank you very much. I'm great to see you here today. Anyway, that wasn't what I was going to talk about. Sorry about that. So I'm hoping that I'll still have my 5. Well, I won't. Anyway. So I just wanted to give you a quick update about the response to our winter pressures, because obviously it's the cold air is coming in now. And I think all our thoughts are with everybody across the country that's been affected by the recent storms. So we just hope that they're all okay. I was at the Greater Manchester Homelessness Board on Monday, and I was really pleased to note that the incredible work our council teams are doing and our partners across the borough, that have undertaken quite a substantial amount of work in order to be ready for the winter pressures. We're getting national recognition for this, which is great. Now, I think, as we all know, it's a difficult job in any time of year, but of the colder months, there are, of course, those added pressures. And our teams and partners have put a number of contingencies in place in order to ensure that we're fully ready for the seasonal weather. It's called the emergency provision. It's SWEP. You might have heard it being bandied about. It actually stands for Seasonal Weather Emergency Provision. And it's when there's a degree zero temperature, anybody who's homeless or rough sleeping will be offered emergency night accommodation for a bed for the night. Now, this has actually involved quite a substantial amount of planning with our housing providers, our council officers as well, our private rented accommodation, housing associations, and certainly our partners, the BRIC, have been absolutely phenomenal in the work that they're doing. They do outreach for us in respect of the homelessness teams, with the homelessness teams. And we've got extra beds in all of those accommodation, but certainly in Queen's Hall and the Brickworks is something that was happening there. If you know of anybody that's homeless or is rough sleeping, there is all of the information on how to actually raise this awareness from the council officer's perspective is actually on our websites. I will do you a link, I'll send you a link on that. What will happen is if there's a rough sleeper, an emergency situation, our officers will go out and speak to them. They will actually have a conversation with them. We'll see what the opportunities are, what we can do to support them. And they'll take them through a detailed understanding of what needs to happen, so there is actually a proper structure to that. And we've actually got more permanent bed spaces, as you know, at Lee, which is the Bed for Every Night, which is Greater Manchester, that's actually sorted that out as well. And we've also got indications that I've talked before in this chamber about the supported accommodation, where we do a wraparound service for people who are homeless so that they can actually get back on their feet, they can actually think about getting a job, getting skills, so all that's happening. There's indication from government that there may well be funding available for that in order for people to move on to more permanency, because our schemes have been so successful in actually helping people who are homeless. And let's face it, any one of us can come homeless at any time. There's so many different reasons for becoming homeless. I mean, my colleague Dane has mentioned about the domestic abuse and everything else. When you're fleeing from somewhere, it's not your fault. People don't choose to be homeless. And I think one of the things is we know that we're trying to do what we can in this borough. I'll also be circulating this, which is actually a fundraising thing it's helpful for people. Right, I've got my thing, hang on. So income maximisation, just very quickly, drum roll please, it's £6 million now that we've actually achieved through the income maximisation. Please keep pushing that. We're actually doing a number of events from a pension credit perspective in the libraries. Again, I'll circulate the information there because there's a drive to get people to link up on the pension credits. The deadline for that is actually the 21st of December, so please, 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 there's 18 events that was taking place across the borough, and again, I will actually circulate that information. It's already on the website, it's already there, but I'll actually provide you with the link so it's for the ease of reference. So can I just keep promoting? There's a key ring at the side there that gives you all the details. As you're going out, collect some of those. Just keep promoting what we're doing so that we can get as many people as possible. We've done direct mails as well with people. We've done phone calls, and we've actually had a lot of success with that, where people have been coming in and actually talking to us in the places that we've had our events. So it is really important we get that, because we've actually, so far we've got 4,000 people that we've assisted well over, but there's a lot more that we need to support. And I'm on my red and I'm going to sit down. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the floor, Madam Mayor. It is the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918 when Armistice Day comes into effect. Thousands of people come together for spontaneous celebrations which erupted across the United Kingdom and Commonwealth. Streets are lined up by jubilant citizens celebrating the end of the conflict and horrific fighting that claimed millions of lives over the last 4 years. Millions of poppies blooming in the Flanders fields, giving hope to humanity for a peaceful future and remembering the fallen. Madam Mayor, from then on, Remembrance Day became an annual tradition which is celebrated with national fervour and pride, not only in UK, but also widely marked in the Commonwealth countries that sent their men and women to serve in the world wars. Here in Wigan, we come together every year in our towns and villages to commemorate the contribution and loss of servicemen and women in the world wars and all worldwide conflicts since, and to say thank you to those who sacrificed their today for our tomorrow. It takes a lot of effort and hard work to deliver such huge public ceremonies and parades on a bitterly cold Sunday morning in November. Madam Mayor, remembrance events which are growing year on year and attract huge crowds and audiences take weeks and months of planning and hard work from our staff and officers. They organise the road closures, prepare the cenotaphs and war memorials so people can pay their respects, and ensure that all relevant agencies are involved and working together. Elected members put display poppies across their towns and villages and lead on remembrance ceremonies and parades. Community groups getting involved, volunteering and enthusing others to participate. Greater Manchester Police, St John Ambulance and other emergency services keeping us all safe during these gatherings. Armed forces, veterans and their families, whose presence at these events symbolises the significance of the day. Royal British Legion, raising critical funds for our veterans. Parade marshals from all walks of life. Musical bands, bringing the spirit of the day to life. Clergy and churches, playing their vital role, and other community and faith sectors who all come together to mark this important and emotive day for all of us. Madam Mayor, without these broader collaborations, these events cannot be made possible. Therefore, Madam Mayor, today I would like to take this opportunity, and I hope that everyone in this chamber will join me on behalf of our residents to formally express our sincere thanks to everyone who gets involved in organising and bringing these events together. Thank you. And Madam Mayor, with your permission, I want to share a really good news for Wigan. So last night at the SIPFA Public Finance Award, our team Wigan won the Team of the Year Award. And to make it even better, we also won the Grand Prix Award, which is an overall award for the best finance team of the year. So on behalf of everyone, I want to say a huge congratulations and a big thank you to Tony and every member of his team for their commitment and hard work. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to kind of keep it brief because there's been some good explanations tonight of what actually this council's involved in. And what I did think very early on in the meeting tonight, in fact, of the members of the Youth Council who are here tonight, and a splendid example of what this borough is all about, and the young people that represent this borough at all the councils in North West and Greater Manchester, and it's something that we all should be proud of. And one thing I am proud of is something that we've stuck out for quite a while now, and people who know me know how passionate I am about creating apprenticeships for young people and people of this borough. And constantly in our budgets, we've always set aside money to make sure that that funding continues to give people opportunities to train. And one that I wanted to say tonight that I found with great interest, that Wigan and Lee College this year have more apprentices going through their training system than ever before. And I like to think, when you look back over the hundreds of years probably the college has been operating, and colleges across this country, that Wigan and Lee College now are dealing with more apprentices than they've ever dealt with before. And I'd like to think that we as a council have played a major part in that, encouraging this opportunity for people, young and old, across this borough to get involved in apprenticeships. And I'm very proud that we as a borough have got fully behind that over a number of years. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you all. We move on to item 6A, the Local Authority Governor Report. The Council is requested to approve the nominations for the Local Authority Governor vacancies and reappointments as set out in the report at page 25 of your agendas. I invite the leader to move the recommendations.
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Are the recommendations seconded?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Raymond, do you wish to speak now? Do any other members wish to contribute? Councillor Raymond? Oh, sorry, we've got Councillor Jones. Sorry, you popped up late.
Wrong. Is this the meetings minutes as well for the new meetings? No,
Councillor Raymond?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Leader, do you wish to sum up? So we'll move to the vote. All those in favour of accepting the recommendation as set out in the minutes? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That vote is carried. Agenda item 6B, timetable of meetings for 2025 and 26. You've got a report on page 31 of your agendas which asks the Council to formally accept the timetable of meetings for 2025 and 26. I invite the Leader to move the timetable of meetings as set out on the Council agenda.
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Is the recommendation seconded?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Raymond, would you like to speak now?
I would reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to contribute? Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I've been following Parliament recently, which is something I don't normally do. It doesn't really interest me. But one thing that they do, that Council doesn't, they have regular meetings. So I want to put a proposal forward. I think the Leader will like this. I think we should do a weekly Leader's questions added on to this. So we ask the Leader questions, it goes back and forth, and I think we should also have our full Council meetings at once a month, rather than once every 2 months. And the reason I say that is, let's be honest, legally I think it's the 6-month rule that you've got to turn up to Council meetings. So I think the least we could do is owe it to our residents. There's that much important things happening over a 4-week period that we should meet every month. And also, the way things stand at the moment, you might put a motion through, it can end up 4-6 months down the line before it gets heard. I'm not going to questions because we all know we're not allowed to ask them in here, but I think moving to a monthly would be brilliant for democracy. It gives residents through us more time to talk. And in the future, I think the Leader should definitely take into consideration my we could call it Leaders' Questions, a weekly thing. We could even do a live stream on YouTube, Madam Mayor.
Councillor O'Byrne? Do any other members? Councillor Raymond? Leader, do you wish to sum up?
Not really, but if Steve wants to write to me, this tonight was just agreeing the agenda of meetings for next year. So if Steve, I'm not sure he wants to follow what Parliament do, even though he's only watched it for a short period of time. I'm not sure it'd be the best idea. But certainly, if Steve wants to email me, I'll certainly have a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Can I put the report to a vote, please? All those in favour of accepting the recommendation as set out in the report? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That vote is carried. Just to note that Democratic Services will put the meeting requests in your agenda, in your diaries, after the AGM in May. They won't go in before because they're at the committees and everything are only decided at the agenda at the AGM. Item 6C, appointment of the Independent Remuneration Panel. The Council is requested to consider the report on page 39 of your agenda to agree to appoint an independent remuneration panel following an interview process. The members' allowance scheme is reviewed every 4 years and the panel will be meeting in 2025. I invite the Leader to move the recommendations.
Happy to move the recommendations, Madam Mayor.
Are the recommendations seconded?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Do any members wish to contribute? Councillor Raymond, do you want to say anything else? Lee, did you wish to sum up?
No, Madam Mayor.
So all those in favour of accepting the recommendations as set out in the report, please show your hands. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, thank you. That vote is carried. Item 7A on your agenda, Council Housing Condensation, Damp and Mould Policy. The Council is requested to consider a report on page 45 of the agenda. The report has already been considered by the Housing Advisory Panel and Cabinet at meetings held on the 10th and 26th of September and have endorsed and recommended the report to Council for approval. This report has come to Council in response to a motion raised by Councillor Gerard on the 17th of April 2024. I invite Councillor Gambles to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to just give a bit of background, if I could, as well, please. If that's oh, sorry. Yes, I move the report.
Thank you, Leader. Do any members wish to contribute? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this subject. Also, thank you to the portfolio holder, committee members and officers for compiling and presenting the Wigan Council's comprehensive policy on condensation, mould and damp report. I appreciate the significant efforts that have gone into developing this strategy to address the pressing issue affecting many of our residents. Whilst as an opposition, all we can do is highlight the issues residents face, which we have done in many times via questions and motions, as we did back in April, where our motion over this issue was referred back to Cabinet without debate. But this is the kind of response we seek and welcome, albeit without this Chamber's input beforehand. My response to the report aims to highlight the strengths of the policy, while also identifying areas where we can enhance our approach. So the strengths of this policy in the report: accountability, the clear delineation of responsibilities among the strategic management leadership team, responsive repair service and customer care team demonstrates a strong framework for oversight and accountability. This ensures that there is a coordinated response to mould and damp issues, which is essential for effective management. Prompt investigation. The commitment to investigate reports of condensation, mould and damp promptly is commendable. Timely responses are crucial in preventing further damage and mitigating the health risks associated with these issues. Training and expertise. The emphasis on training staff to identify and remedy mould and damp problems is another positive aspect of this policy. Utilising specialist equipment for accurate diagnosis and treatment also shows a commitment to best practices. Clear communication channels. The policy outlines a structured approach for logging and addressing tenant complaints, which is vital in maintaining transparency and trust with our residents. Providing regular updates throughout the complaint process will help alleviate tenant anxiety and enhance their overall experience. Feedback mechanisms. Incorporating various channels for tenant feedback is an excellent initiative. Gathering insights as multiple stages of the remediation process after initial reports, post-inspection and post-remediation will allow this council to continuously improve our services based on real-life experiences. Long-term strategy. The commitment to review the policy every 3 years and adapt based on feedback and new guidance reflects a proactive approach to governance and service delivery. Engaging with key stakeholders in these reviews will further enhance the relevance and effectiveness of our actions. So that's the positives. So areas for improvement. Resource allocation. While the policy mentions ensuring adequate resources are allocated, it would be beneficial to have more specific details on the budget and resource management strategies to ensure the successful implementation of these initiatives. Clear allocation of resources will ensure the teams can respond effectively to reported issues. Awareness campaigns. Although there are plans for public awareness campaigns, it would be advantageous to expand this. Developing proactive outreach programmes can significantly reduce stigma and empower residents to report issues without fear. Promoting preventative measures and educating residents on their role in preventing mould and damp is crucial, as we know with condensation. Use of technology. Enhanced use of technology could further improve reporting and tracking of mould issues. Implementing a user-friendly digital platform for tenants to easily report problems and track progress would increase transparency and tenant satisfaction. Monitoring and evaluation. While the proposed feedback mechanisms are robust, it will be beneficial to include specific performance indicators and benchmarks to evaluate the effectiveness of policy over time. This data-driven approach can highlight areas needing improvement and celebrate success. You can see them on the yellow, so I'll get back to me. So to sum up, the mould and damp policy laid out before us is a solid foundation for addressing these pressing issues within our community. By recognising its strengths and identifying opportunities for improvement, we can enhance our efforts to protect the health and well-being of our residents. I look forward to working with the teams over this in the future, and I will be happy to vote for this report. However, please take on board our concerns. Thank you.
Councillor Whittingham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A resident contacted me in September 23 and asked for help in the possibility of rehousing her and a young family. She has been bidding for 6 years, obviously with no success. She was at the time bidding for a house in Standish. Unfortunately, nothing came of it, and she and her 5 children are still living in squalid conditions, and her landlord doesn't seem to care. Her children attended Standish schools, which is the reason she wants to move back into Standish. If she were to move anywhere else in the borough, she wouldn't be able to afford new school uniforms and attire for her 5 children. There is black mould in the living room as well as upstairs, rising damp on the walls, all around the house, which is causing the plaster to crumble and break away from the walls. There are also cracks in the walls. She pays her rent regularly each month. Her young son, Michael, has reading and writing problems, and it's difficult for her to have any privacy due to her living conditions.
Councillor Whittingham, apologies, can I interrupt you just for a second? Can I ask you, is this relating to the policy
Yes, it is.
Or an individual case? If it's a case, it needs to go through members' inquiries.
It's damp and mould.
But this is actually the policy that we're discussing, not individual cases.
It's been going on since 2023 and nothing's been done. So this is why I'm bringing it up tonight.
So
I want to have my voice heard.
that's an individual case, though. It's not part of the agenda item for the policy. So you need to
When
bring that up.
I'm getting to it,
If you bring it back to the policy, that's fine, Councillor Whittingham.
Anyway, listen, I'm asking the question, will this authority collaborate? I mean, you've cut me off halfway through, which I think is disgraceful. But will this authority collaborate with a private rented tenant to try and get her rehoused before one of her children die from spores growth? Foremost, is it possible that the council tried to make contact and speak with her landlord as he refuses to do anything about the damp ceilings, mould and all the rest of it? Surely private tenants have the same rights and expectations from this authority and their own, as well as the council tenants. I'll not say thank you because you interrupted me, so one last thing. Happy Lancashire Day to you all. Because we are Lancastrians.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam like Stuart, I welcome the report, and I believe the Cabinet member, believe the civil servants all want the best for when it comes to Council House in Moulding. Unfortunately, there's a few problems on why I don't think anything has changed since the tragic loss a couple of years ago of the young boy, or why I think it's going to change now. And that is because, unfortunately, people are looking for excuses when they go into people's houses. They're not looking at what the problem is, and not all inspectors, they're looking straight away to blame the residents, saying condensation. When you say condensation, it rids you of all responsibilities. Now, for the last 20 years, I've spent that as a plasterer. A plasterer is not a damp-proof specialist, but you have a certain amount of knowledge. The problem is with damp, when it's bad, it's not condensation. That might cause a little bit on the surface. It's water coming in from outside or rising damp. And unfortunately, 20 years experienced plasterer, I don't always have the expertise to identify the cause of it. So no disrespect, there's no chance our inspectors will do. There's no chance that probably our contractors will do. And I'll tell you why. We had one contractor with a job advertisement on Indeed, and it said, are you ready for this? Plasterer, 1 year preferably, and it was minimum wage. You are not going to get a qualified plasterer for minimum wage, but it gets worse. It then said, ideally, we'd like, plumbing electrician, joinery and every other trade that was known. So my point being is they're probably really hard workers, they probably deserve more money, but they're not going to be damp-proof specialists. The inspectors that may be saying it probably don't really know and haven't had the training either. So what I think we should do as a recommendation is make sure we have top damp-proof specialists who go in. We don't go into an house and ever blame the resident. It may be on occasions that it's just condensation. We try to educate the tenant and we still investigate whether there's damp and what's the cause of it. But unless we do them things, we train people proper, we get proper contractors who are specialised in that, it's its own trade, we're never ever going to solve damp and mould in people's houses. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Brearley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm on this advisory panel, housing, and I can't believe how good they pat themselves on the back. It's unbelievable. You're looking at the accounts, every penny plus £4 million each year gets spent on council houses and contractors and whoever comes first with a stick in their hand out without doing a proper job. Now, like Ray, I'm inundated with people, but there is ways to do it, Ray. I'll be honest with you. Contact Simon Ward. Private, I'm dealing with one now.
Councillor Brearley, can you address the council chamber and the mayor, not individual councillors? This is back. We need to bring it back.
Is your name Ray? Madam Mayor, is your name Ray? I said Ray.
Yeah, exactly. You're not supposed to be directing your conversation to other members.
Giving him an answer. I'm solving a situation.
But
is that not what we're here for?
Councillor Bailey, we're here to discuss the policy on item number 7A on the agenda.
Yeah, it's the mould issue, love.
It's the what, sorry?
It's the mould report.
Yeah, but it's the details in the policy we're discussing, not individual cases.
I know, I'll just explain to him there is a solution for him.
But that's not part of the
policy. Well, don't interrupt me when I'm giving him a solution, please.
That's not the discussion part we're doing, it's the policy. Have you got a comment about the policy, Councillor Brearley?
Yeah, it doesn't go far enough.
There we go, carry on, Bob.
Doesn't go far enough. Should have people like me who are prepared to go to the house and talk. What are you laughing at, Fred?
Excuse me, no.
What about an apology to me, Fred?
Councillor
At least I didn't claim £32,000 worth of compensation.
Both of you, can I ask you, I did ask you not to address other councillors.
Well, you should have told Fred what he just said then.
I did. I have just
I
asked
think,
him...
Madam Mayor, you're out of control. You support the Labour, you don't support anybody else.
I've just asked the councillor not to interrupt as well, and I'm asking you the same thing. Have you got something to say about the policy, councillor
For a far
Brayley?
example, I did solve a council house mould situation.
Is that to do with the policy?
Yes, because I
Is
raised
it written in the policy?
I raised it at the meeting, and it cost me, what was it? £81.60. £3.20.
That's
and
not...
I solved the situation.
Councillor Brayley, that is not part of the policy.
Yes,
That's
it
an
is, because I
it's
raised
not.
it in the meeting. I raised it at the meeting.
But it's not part
a little
of the policy.
DG
I'm sorry,
fib
but I'm
from
going to ask you to
Old
sit down.
Bergens,
Councillor Brayley,
79p,
please
one
sit
a week
down.
to call the...
Turn his microphone off, please. Councillor Brayley, please sit down. Sit down, please. I'm asking you to sit down. No, the rules are that if I stand up... I'm going to adjourn the meeting if you carry on. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to allow me to speak in this report. Now, like Councillor Gerrard, there's a lot of positives to take from this report, and I'm fully supportive of it. But if you look at item paragraph 2.3, once the initial report's received, it does say to arrange for an antifungal washdown, and there's a few other little bits in there, but then there'll be arrangements and inspections followed up at 6, 12 and 18 months. But there isn't a specified time frame in between when the resident reports the mould to initial action. So for residents' peace of mind, I think going forward in the future, if we can implement maybe something like a 14-day response time to treat the mould, that would be a very progressive way to, like I say, to improve our residents' peace of mind and to also prevent any medical conditions from worsening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think there's been enough political stunts tonight, but just welcome some of the comments from the independents there and the supportive of the policy, and I think most people in this room would support it. And Ray, you can see you're passionate, lad, absolutely. You know, but we've all got, probably in this room now, we've all got cases like that with respect. And I know you're not just jumping up there and you're going to put it on YouTube, mate, though you're the only person.
Councillor Hunt, I've asked other councillors not to address councillors directly. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I was just actually welcoming the comments.
What's your point of order, Councillor Whittingham? Councillor Whittingham, he was making reference to him not addressing him directly. That's different. I've asked Councillor Hunt not to do that, and I've asked the others as well. So I've asked that everyone... No, he was mentioning someone. He wasn't talking to someone directly. It's slightly different. Councillor Whittingham, that's enough. Thank you.
Yeah, apologies for that, Madam. No, I just, for me, and we've all got the same issues, but I'd have to say with that the last government didn't help in terms of how it did with these, because I presume the case that you mentioned is private landlords, and you said there shouldn't be a difference. Unfortunately, there is, because private landlords are not held to the same standards as we are in terms of our housing stock. That's a fact, and you can thank the last government for that. Thankfully, the current government's announced changes to that, and rightly so. So, in terms of the condensation, you're a plasterer, I'm a brickie, and I know a little bit about damp like yourself, but I'm sure our inspectors know the difference from a condensation and damp. You know, I'd have to give them that much credit, and I'm sure things can be improved. So I think you've got to give them a little bit of credit. They know what they're doing, not a bunch of not halfwits going around with a monitor. They certainly know what they're doing. And with respect to, well, I can't mention you, but these companies that you're mentioning about, they'll go and help you out. They don't help you out. I'll tell you what they are. They're nothing but sharks preying on vulnerable people. And that's what they do. They'll tell you they'll come and get your damp fixed and sue the council, which comes out of our budget. So these people are not coming over in a white horse helping residents. They're absolutely sharks.
Hunt,
and you shouldn't even mention them in the chamber, these people, because in my opinion, they're just preying on misery.
Councillor Hunt, can you hang on a second, please?
Yeah.
What's your point of order, please, Councillor Bailey?
It's misinterpreted. Nobody's calling sharks, are they? I mean, we've got a few contractors on our books who are sharks. I mean, they're discussing where they treat our residents, and I've got a proven fact of that. So I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if you want to know about the proven fact, is the name's and
all right, Councillor Bailey, I'm asking you not to name that, and please don't point your finger at me like that. It's quite rude.
Well, the officers and contractors are not here and can't defend themselves. But overall, I just want to say, everybody in this room should be supporting this policy and action. Nobody, yes, we can always do that bit much better. And as Councillor Gams has said tonight, they're doing the damnedest to try and make it better. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Leader.
Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Gambles is entitled to her 10 minutes in terms of presentation. I'll reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Councillor Gambles.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. And thank you very much, Councillor Gerard and Watson, and particularly Councillor Gerard. Have you pinched my speech? Have you pinched my script? So I'm not really actually going to go into too much more detail, but of course it was actually the reason. I just wanted to say, though, that the presenting a policy to full council doesn't mean the work's not going on already. It's still continuing. So I know that Councillor Jones has mentioned that sometimes it's a few months before a motion is heard through the processes that we have. That absolutely does not mean that we do not stop. And this is a priority for us. And I think that's clear from the actual procedure and policy that we've got in place, that how important it is. And I'll answer some of the questions, if that's all right, some of the queries that you had. We will absolutely have very robust performance indicators, and that will be held to account by the Housing Advisory Panel, who are actually tenants. They were fully supportive of this process. And about the resource allocation, we're currently in the process of putting our interim business plan together. That will also have the details of where we're actually going to allocate the funding in respect of not just the damp and mould, but the repairs, the voids, all the stuff that we have to do from a council perspective, from a housing perspective. So there will be some budget headings which will go through the Housing Advisory Panel and through to the proper processes for the approval. But that's already ongoing. The awareness campaign, I agree. I think one of the things is from the awareness is that we're all reliant on you here in order to promote what's happening. Everything is on the website. If you actually just put Damp and Mould Wigan Council, it'll come up with all of the information, including how you actually can help yourself in order to get rid of some of that mould in the first place. And I think the thing is what we're actually also saying, we're not necessarily just thinking about it condensation style, small events. It's when it's actually really difficult to get rid of those the mould in those properties, because there is damp coming through and there is actually things that we need to do in order to mitigate that. We've already done, you've mentioned a part of technology, and I absolutely agree. It's one of the things that we're doing. We've done a pilot project where we've actually asked for some homes of tenants to put some technology in. We're just assessing whether that's been successful, whether it's been helpful, and if it has. And also, obviously, bearing in mind, we'll be speaking to the tenants about that, see how they felt about it. So we will actually be rolling that out so we can actually get some data in order to actually change that. The stock condition survey is going to be taking place underway, and again we can then identify quite a number of the properties that we're working on that we know may have issues, so that we can actually go in sooner rather than later until it's a problem. And we're also using the data that we've got from a financial perspective on where the spend is in respect of the damp and mould, because all of this is collected information which have got all the stats, and absolutely everything that we do is being more business driven by the information and statistical stuff that we have. We've got the dashboard, of course, and Councillor Whittingham. We've spoken about the project, didn't we? Yes, today. It was today. I found out about it a couple of days ago. It is a private sector let, but I will just give you a broad brush of if any of your residents are having issues with the private landlord from a repairs perspective, go onto our website. Again, if you put private sector landlord, it pops up. There's a referral form. It gives you the information that the problem that the tenant's having with the private landlord from a repairs perspective. And what you will have to have, which we've talked about, they have to have evidence that they've actually involved the tenant, the landlord, that they've spoken to them and they've actually given them time to put things right. So they will have to have evidence. Photographs are always helpful as well, but that's all on the website. And then our environmental team will go out and actually have a look and inspect. And I think, Councillor, so I'll go in order. Although I've gone off piece otherwise. So I hope that gives you an idea. Again, I'll be sending links out. I'll be sending links out all day, I think, tomorrow. So I will be sending some links out so it makes it easier for you. And then, Councillor Jones, you're saying about the training. Well, our inspectors are actually very well trained. We're actually needing more inspectors, but what we're also doing with our staff members is we're actually again doing the eyes and ears, not just the trades that go in, other people that are going into the actual houses, the homes, see the person, see the home. So there is some ongoing training and upskilling people as well in order to actually identify some of that. I understand what you're saying about it. Some of it's difficult, but we don't make judgment on people in respect of how they live their lives. That's something that we wouldn't do. So that is actually some training that's taking place. Councillor Brealey, as you mentioned, you are on the Housing Advisory Panel. You have listened to, or you have had this paper and policy beforehand. And I'm a bit surprised that you didn't actually make some of these suggestions and the concerns that you've had actually at that meeting, because it was approved by the Housing Advisory Panel. So that's where some of this, I would have expected you to have even raised the issue if you had a concern, rather than waiting until full council, until we're actually presenting the policy. Councillor Brealey, you have stated that you are a you have stated that you are a member of the Housing Advisory Panel. The Housing Advisory Panel had the report in detail, did a presentation. You have had the report. You've had opportunity in order to actually respond, make comments, make suggestions. You did not do so, but you chose to actually speak at full council when we've actually presented the policy. So I'm sorry, you've had your opportunity. And then if I can go on to Councillor Watson. That's why you're there, isn't it? Well, let's hope you turn up. So.
Councillor Brealey,
And finally,
can I ask you not to talk unless you put your microphone on or call a point of order? Thank you. It's on the screen. I don't need to look over there.
well, I'm glad my time's gone up. It usually goes off, doesn't it? It usually carry on. So, Councillor Watson, absolutely about the time frame. It's an emergency. If anybody responds with reports damp and mould, it's an emergency. So we do it very quickly, very rapidly. We go out. So, well, have a look at those time frames. I think you mentioned 14 days, but I think it's earlier than that. So I will check, and I'll incorporate that into the email that I send everybody, so you've all had the right information. And I think as Councillor, hang on a minute, I can't tell you your name because I've forgotten. Hang on. Gerard, sorry. Yes, as Councillor Gerard mentioned. Sorry about that. It's a really comprehensive policy, and I would like to add my thanks to the team that's worked on this. We have got a really dedicated set of people working for this council. The reason they work for the council is because they want to do the best for these residents, and this is an example of that. So they've gone into great detail, they've put policies in place, we've put procedures in place. It's not just a policy, it's followed up by that, and there's also accountability. So I would like to put my thanks for all of the people that have been involved in this policy, but not just this one, because I'm afraid, everybody, you're going to get a few more in the next few months. So we are actually working on it to improve, which I've said before. We knew that we needed to improve as a housing service. The tanker's nearly turning round. It's not quite there yet, but so we've still got some other stuff to do. But please be assured that what we do as an authority, as a council, is absolutely for our residents to make sure that they have the best life that they can lead. So I would like to... Are you speaking? No? Oh, no? I would just like... I think I'm going to ask the Youth Cabinet for protocol, because I've cocked up about 3 times now. So can I just move the motion, and hopefully that everybody will feel appropriate to support it. So thank you very much.
Leader, do you wish to speak?
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, because obviously I think Councillor Gambles has more than covered everything in the report. But can I just take a slight bit of licence? In fact, I think Councillor Gerard mentioned, and our motions get thrown into the bin and we never see them again. I think there was something said like that, previous councillor. Councillor Stewart. Sorry, Councillor Stephen Jones, I didn't mean to make that before. But I think you can see how seriously that has been taken, and I think the amount of passion that's been shown across this chamber tonight with reference to this particular problem that we face fully needed that debate and fully needed to come back in a proper report with proper answers. And I think you can accept that why it was deferred and why there was more investigations taking place. And I'm more than happy to second the report, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gambles, do you wish to sum up at all? So all those in favour of accepting the recommendation as set out in the report, please show your hands. Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That vote is carried. Item 7B on your agenda is the market rights policy. The Council is requested to accept the recommendations in the report as set out on page 73 of your agenda regarding the new market rights policy. I invite the Leader to move the recommendations.
Happy to move the report, Madam Mayor.
Are the recommendations seconded?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor, and I reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to contribute? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If it's easy, just call me leader to leader, leader opposition, well, one of us. I opened this, and I genuinely thought I'd opened the wrong thing. Because it starts off by saying, Wigan Council recognises the importance of markets. And then I scrolled down, Madam Mayor, and it says, markets operated, Ashton Market. Well, as you may know, Bryn is roughly about 50–60% of the town, Ashton Makerfield. And unless I'm mistaken, maybe the Ashton Council will tell me different, we don't have a market on Ashton. Because this council, and again, don't take it personal as the council, I know I fight for councillors' rights, I know we don't have as much say as we should, but this council as a whole decided to shut Ashton Market because it wanted parking spaces. You go further down that list, it mentions 3 more markets that this council shut. We've got a market, well, we did have a market over there, which has been demolished. So to start off this report by saying that this council recognises how, well, is being demolished, I should say, to say that we recognise how important markets are when we're the market slayers. We hate markets because it's more work for our council officers, it's more costs, just like our old heritage buildings. We want to demolish them. We don't want to do anything that is more hard work. So I do welcome any policy that saves our markets. Councillor Reedy mentioned before about the libraries. I think the markets come under the same as the libraries. I think they're massively important. The libraries more so for the reasons you said, but the markets, I think it's a history thing. So Ashton and Makerfield as a whole, our Councillor Fletcher will agree with this point. Everybody in that town sees Ashton and Makerfield as a historic market town. That's the first thing they know about. My earliest memories, or one of them, was going around with my grandma when it had 200 stalls. Before that, it had 400 stalls. And this council, bar every trader telling him, I was the market representative at the time, didn't listen to the residents, and we shut it down. There was cabins up, and those market traders in there had been operating like for 40, 50 years. And we took the cabins away, put pop-up stalls. These people didn't have vans. They couldn't just bring the stuff back and forth all of a sudden. We knew it would shut it down because we built the medical centre and we wanted it. But what did we do? We did, we're the deal, we're going to do this public consultation and ignore everybody's views. So I find it really insulting on a personal level when I feel, not just as a councillor, as a resident, heartbroken that we no longer have a market, but then we do what we always do and we pretend that we care about it. Look at the Wigan market. The amount of objections that we had through traders, through residents, through councillors. We had the sit-down sofa where we said 3,000 people had sat on it and give their opinions. We only listen to the opinions that we want. I'll give you a fine example. We've got the fake news at the back of the room. When you live in a bubble where you believe everything that you say and everyone around you, you attack councillors for wishing people happy birthday and then get egg on your face. And that's what we do. We surround ourselves in a nice little bubble where we believe the outside world thinks the same as the little bubble that we live in. And what we soon realise is that's not how they feel. So be dictators, but then don't pretend that we care about markets when we don't care about markets. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I can't speak for Ashton Market, but in terms of Wigan Market, that is fake news. Come on, for God's sake. I don't know if you've been down to the market recently, but I think we've probably got about 2 stalls that's empty, right? So, no. And listen, I've seen all the nonsense out there. We know what the nonsense goes. It's Wigan Market's fault, Wigan Council's fault for all the markets and the demise of the markets, which is utter nonsense. Because it's a national problem, any road, isn't it? Internet shopping, you name it, COVID, the whole thing. The galleries was finished. It wasn't an historic building, by the way, because you mentioned heritage. That's another load of nonsense. The council don't knock historic building down. It's one of the only councils in Greater Manchester that actually has a heritage strategy, unlike a lot of other towns. So that's fake news again. The other thing about the council is this Labour councillors give more support to those traders down there than any other local authority in the North West region. These traders are benefiting from a 45% reduction in their rent.
Councillor Hunt, we've got a point of order.
It's a point of nonsense. I believe it's from the public gallery, Madam Mayor. So I'm speaking about markets. It's about markets. There's been enough interruptions tonight. You've had your fake news. I'm giving you the reality. Those traders down there are very supportive. We did have a lot of problems initially. They're benefiting from that 45 reduction in the rents and those stalls. And guess what? They're all looking forward. The market isn't finished. It's called redevelopment, just so you know. So one market is being knocked down. Everything changes. It's redevelopment. In fact, the market, the new market, will be about 50 yards away from the whole medieval market, yeah, in Market Street. So that's where the market's going. That market will survive because we'll make sure it will survive. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Brearley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is an insult to market traders. You've killed everything. Ashton Market, what Steve Jones said, Indley Market, Wigan Market. I mean, but you're on about tradition. Well, the tradition's working in Chorley Market, Bolton Market, Bury Market. They're all thriving. But yet, Wigan was the greatest market town going. What you've done, you've flattened it. You've absolutely flattened it. And now you're saying, praise the Lord, we're going to open it up and it's going to be the best again. What a load of rubbish. Traders have gone. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gerard. Councillor Myler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I want to speak on Ashton Market as well. Ashton doesn't have a market anymore. The traders did leave. When we took away the cabins, we knew the market traders would leave. Everyone knew that. They were storing everything in the cabins. They didn't have vans to go back and forth and bring it back. We replaced it with pop-up stalls that were going to be put up on the day. Where were they storing the things in between? We knew that was going to happen. So to put it on there and saying Ashton Market and that we support markets, when we know that we don't, it's just, I do feel personally on that.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I weren't going to speak, then I weren't. Well, no, I am. Yeah, reading the report there, I mean, in Atherton is an historic market town. Obviously, in the report it says, obviously it's redundant at the moment and they all the right. And we have seasonal markets now down in Market Street in Atherton. That brings quite a few people into the town, which hopefully helps boost trade. So I'm just hoping someone can assure me that holding these seasonal events will not be looked down upon, you know, but that will reserve the right to keep holding these events. And also I've asked the officers in charge of these about the artisan events what they have in Wigan and Leigh. If the council can hold them in between these seasonal markets in Atherton to help boost trade, because we don't have a market anymore like we used to. Atherton is pedestrianised now, you know, fully pedestrianised now. The option what I'd like to see is opening the town up for passing trade, but that's gone. We've got a camera going up now, which is reducing trade even more. And we're in a situation now where a traffic regulation order, camera, is going to be making more money than the businesses in the town centre. So I'm just hoping if Aidan can, I have tried to get hold of him, can assure me that he will look at bringing back markets into Atherton to help boost local trade. And if that can be forthcoming, I'll be welcome. Thank you.
Councillor Raymond.
For your passionate contribution. But can we take a step back? This item is about a policy implementation and not about individual markets. So can we stick to the agenda, please? Thank you.
Leader, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Raymond's just touched on it. And I won't interfere, I won't standing up and calling points of order, but across the chamber, we perhaps missed the point of what the report was about. In a lot of ways, this protects markets. This ensures that people just don't turn up and set up markets in this borough, that they are protected by the Charter of 1246 in terms of how we present ourselves as a borough that supports markets. And can I just say, we talked about the redevelopment of the market, and the market hall is operating at this moment in time in Wigan, and there's work to take place on the Leigh market hall to retain that market hall as well. But can I just say, the biggest part and the first part of the redevelopment of the town centre in this borough, in Wigan, is the market. And that simply shows the pledge that we have to support markets in this borough, and we will continue to do that. I can't do anything about footfall in terms of people dropping off and not shopping at markets anymore. And like Councillor Hunt says, this is happening all over the country. But we believe the offer that we have and what we want to deliver, certainly in Wigan Town Centre and certainly in Leigh in terms of the development that takes place, and in Ashton, in the development that takes place in Ashton with the levelling up funding. Can I just say that this policy protects that? And I'm sure everybody in this chamber should support that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All those in favour of accepting the recommendations as set out in the report, please show your hands. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that vote is carried. Item number 8 on the agenda is questions and comments. Councillor O'Byrne wishes to ask a question on minute 26D of the last minute of full council on constitutional updates to questions and comments at council meetings. Councillor Burns' question is, why are councillors being effectively silenced in full council meetings and prevented from properly representing their constituents as is their duty in a democracy? Is there a response, Leader?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it's a question about asking a question. Can I just say that I think if you refer to the minutes of the Constitutional Working Group that took place in August and also the last council meeting when it was fully debated, and in terms of democracy, I think we've seen democracy working tonight. I think there's been enough questions and enough points raised tonight from all across the chamber to prove that this council works in a democratic way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Watson has posed a question and would like to make a comment and ask a question on minute 14 of the Confident Council Scrutiny Committee held on 11th of November 2024. Councillor Watson's comment and questions are, at this meeting, committee members were restricted from asking questions regarding the statements in the media of political pressure and political concerns that led to the departure of Al and Al from the restoration project at Hay Hall. The question is, will there be a transparent public investigation into these allegations? Is there a response, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just briefly, can I just say that I've done my own investigation and there has been no political pressure or concerns put. But can I just point out to people in the chamber, one of the things that members don't control in this authority and don't have any involvement in is staffing and contracts. We have over 5,000 staff and hundreds of contracts. We don't get involved in those. Contracts come to an end. When they come to an end, they come to an end. And that's with anybody. People have talked about bricklayers and plasterers. When you come to the end of a contract, that's the end of that contract. So I'm sorry, but that's it. But I've done my own investigation and there's no political pressure being put on this one, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. There are no more questions that have been submitted. Item number 10 on the agenda is notice of motions. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Gerard.
Notice forward, please. Under section 10.1, a motion without notice. I've got a seconder. You're not hear me, sorry, Madam. I'd like to bring a motion without notice under section 10.1. I have a seconder in Councillor Marler.
Councillor Jones, can you give us a very brief outline of the motion?
That's my phone, that. Apologies. Can I just apologise when I shouted back to Councillor Hunt? Sometimes I forget how loud my voice is. I didn't mean to shout across the room like that. For this council to provide adequate flooring and a cooker to all new council tenants. If adequate flooring, a cooker left by previous tenants, the council will leave it in.
Councillor Jones, sorry.
3 words left. 3 words, please.
That's not a motion without notice, unfortunately. But that's not a motion.
It is a motion. They can refer it to Cabinet, but you must let me finish my motion.
Can I ask Janet to...
I'm going to say the last 3 words. How it goes down now is up to everyone else, but I'm going to finish last.
I'll give you leeway. You can say 3 words.
The council will leave it in for the new tenant.
I'll address this to the Mayor. Councillor Jones has been advised in writing already that that motion does not meet the criteria for an urgent motion under Rule 10. He was advised of that and you were told that you could bring it forward to the next council meeting. Councillor Jones, Madam Mayor, can I clarify that that is correct? There was the motion was received from Councillor Jones. There was advice given that that did not meet the criteria for an urgent motion. The motion was submitted in writing. Councillor Jones asked that it be dealt with urgently. He was advised, I gave advice that did not meet the criteria for under Rule 10, that urgent motions take the form of put forward members such as can we adjourn a meeting, and not the type of motion that Councillor Jones is proposing. It does not fit within the criteria for an urgent motion. And I will not take issue with Councillor Jones now, but I do object to being called a liar by Councillor Jones.
I suggest we move on. All right, Councillor Jones, thank you. Item number 10, the motion by Councillor Gerard, which is set out on page 97 of the agenda. Councillor Gerard. Okay, Councillor Gerard, would you mind sitting down just for a moment, please? Councillor Brearley, you've been persistently disregarding the rules tonight. I've asked you to sit down, I've asked you to be quiet, and now you're being offensive to officers. I feel that that's deliberately obstructing the business of the meeting, and I would like a member to move that Councillor Brearley isn't heard in the meeting. Thank you. Is it seconded? Thank you. Councillor Brearley, you have been silenced for the last... Can we have a show of hands, all those in agreement, please? That motion is moved. Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to bring this motion to the Council. Every year in October, we have the opportunity to commemorate the little lives that were lost too soon and to support the families enduring these unimaginable takes. My family experienced this profound loss when our daughter lost her son. When we found out my daughter was expecting for the second time, the news filled our hearts with immense joy and love. And when we heard the worst news imaginable, it was a devastating blow to our entire family. My daughter faced unimaginable grief, her dreams and hopes shattered in an instant, and the impact on her mental health and well-being was profound. I'll miss the next bit, else I'll break up. However, my daughter received tremendous support from the For Louis charity, who were a strong shoulder of support, and as a family, we are eternally grateful for helping her find the strength to cope. As we debate tonight, countless families in our community are navigating similar heartaches. In the UK, in 2022, 4,604 pregnancies ended in loss, a reality that underscores the widespread nature of this pain. This statistic is not just a number. It represents the genuine suffering of families who experience the devastation of losing a child before they even have a chance to enter the world. By officially recognising Baby Loss Awareness Week, we are not merely acknowledging these tragic experiences, we are taking a stand to support those who grieve. Our collective voice sends a clear message. It is okay to grieve, to share stories and to seek understanding and support. The pain of losing a child can leave a family feeling isolated, and it's crucial that we create spaces where both parents and grandparents feel safe to express their grief, and the wider family, of course. This recognition can also spark important conversations regarding mental health and the resources available to bereaved families. I believe, and I hope you agree, that by officially recognising this week, we can inspire further community initiatives that help grieving families find solace and understanding during their darkest times. Let us imagine a community where families who have experienced such tragic loss feel validated, supported and understood by fostering a culture of care where we can help ensure that no one navigates this painful journey alone. So the motion is as follows: that Wigan Council formally recognises Baby Loss Awareness Week in October each year and commits to raising awareness around baby loss within the community through dedicated support, initiatives and educational resources. This motion requests that Wigan Council will implement a series of actions aimed at supporting those affected by baby loss, including official recognition, proclaiming Baby Loss Awareness Week annually and encouraging local schools, organisations and communities to participate in learning and remembrance activities. Resource development, collaborate with local health providers and specialised support organisations such as For Louis, SANS and Little Tommy to create and disseminate informational materials about baby loss, including grief support services available in the borough. Awareness campaigns, launch a targeted awareness campaign with partners and support groups, as mentioned before, during Baby Loss Awareness Week to educate the public and reduce stigma surrounding baby loss. Fostering an understanding and supportive community environment. Support events, organise and facilitate a memorial event during Baby Loss Awareness Week, allowing families to commemorate their lost loved ones and share their experiences in a safe and supportive setting. So to sum up, I urge all councillors to support this motion to recognise Baby Loss Awareness Week. Together, let us advocate for compassion, awareness and support for those affected by the loss of a child. Let us light a candle, not just in memory of the little ones who left us too soon, but as a symbol of hope for the families struggling to cope with grief.
Thank you, Councillor Jarrett. I know how difficult that must have been. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Jones, do you wish to speak or reserve your right? Thank you.
All I'm going to say is this is Stuart's motion that he feels passionate about, and it's an honour to support him. And by that reaction, it looks like the full council will do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gregory.
Hiya, sorry, is it okay to speak on the motion now? Yeah, sorry. So I just want to thank Councillor Gerard for bringing this motion to full council. I know it's an issue that affects a lot of people, and it's early pregnancy loss, particularly miscarriages, a massive taboo subject. But the statistics are that 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in loss. So I know people in this room, I'm sure, I won't be the only one that will have gone through this. There's so many untold stories of babies that don't quite make it to full term, and obviously babies that are lost by miscarriage or stillbirth. So it's really important that we, as a council, recognise it. So my particular story, so it's back 28th of December 2010, a date I'll always remember when we lost our first pregnancy. And we were so excited, first-time parents, and it's not something that you expect that's going to happen to you. Obviously it did, and then thankfully went on to have a lovely big bouncing boy a few months later. But yeah, you never forget, particularly this time of year as we're coming around to the anniversary. Particularly for miscarriage, certainly as it was then, it's probably still the same. The quality of care that you receive varies, and particularly the way that you're treated. It can be treated very medically when you lose a pregnancy. Suddenly people are talking to you about retained products of conception when that's actually your baby. So, you know, it's something that staff in healthcare really need to think about, the way that they talk to parents who are experiencing a loss. Certainly my experience when I had to have an emergency operation, then afterwards to make sure everything had gone okay, you go and you have your scan in the same room that the mums are coming to have their happy news and to pick their pictures up of their babies, and you're in the same room to be told that unfortunately you're not pregnant anymore. And obviously, you know, that's something else that I think the medical profession can learn a lot about maybe treating people separately rather than being in that same scan room. So I think a lot about support and aftercare is needed for people experiencing baby loss and miscarriage. A good thing, not many good things that the last government did, but one good thing the last government did is introducing the right to request a baby loss certificate. So I was quite proud when we received ours just a couple of weeks ago for our baby that never made it to term. Also to highlight the excellent work that the Miscarriage Association do. They're an excellent charity. And they, you know, I certainly found strength from the services and the information that they put out there. They're really an excellent charity. And also maybe to consider whether or not the council can sign the pregnancy loss pledge. I know Manchester City Council have signed according to the website, so maybe that's something about how the council as an employer can make sure that they kind of provide a supportive work environment when people do experience a pregnancy loss. Look to make sure that people are entitled to pregnancy related leave, and also maybe introduce a pregnancy loss policy if there isn't one already. But thank you very much for bringing the motion. I know we don't always have these discussions, and certainly not this evening. We've not always had these constructive discussions. But thank you very much for bringing the motion, Councillor Gerrard.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this. I think by generating awareness through this motion, we can generate that support network and remove the stigma associated with baby loss. And I think all of us in this chamber have been touched by baby loss, whether it's been through personal circumstances, family or friends. And I'd just like to thank Councillor Gregory there for her personal experience in sharing that with chamber. But I'd also like to thank my ward colleague, Councillor Gerrard, because I know how hard this was for him, for his personal circumstances for him and his family. So thank you, Councillor Gerrard. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Cleeve.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this. I wasn't going to speak at the beginning, but now I feel I must. First of all, Councillor Gerrard, I'd like to give you my deepest condolences. It must have been so difficult. As a family, we've experienced this over the years. And this is why, when I was Mayor, I had a baby loss charity as my charity for the year. Not just to raise money, but to raise awareness, which it most certainly did. Daddies with Angels, who was my charity, got so much support nationally and so much funding to help spread the word and support all parents. Now, you say as a council we should be recognising Baby Loss Awareness Week, which as a council we always do. We light up public buildings, we light up the face on the square and invite bereaved parents and families to attend. Part of the funding I did when I was Mayor, we actually opened a baby loss memorial garden at How Bridge. And I'd like to thank Andrew Bond and Mark Birchall for the amount of work and support they did in bringing that to fruition for me as Mayor. We designed it together, and it is a lovely, lovely place where all families can go, sit, remember the loved ones. There's letters that have got wildflower seeds actually embedded in the paper. So once you've wrote your words on that, you can put it in the post box. Once it's been emptied, the spread in the garden so wildflowers grow. There was always one plan for Wigan, but unfortunately through COVID and different things it got delayed. But I'm pleased to say in the new year that one should also be ready for opening, so we've got one on either side of the borough. So through Daddies with Angels, one of the things this council did was actually gave them 2 days a week for bereavement support for any families, not just the parents or grandparents, but obviously siblings, because that has a massive effect on siblings of that family. The charity raised approximately £30,000 and they've gone on to support so many people, not just in this borough, but nationally. One of the things they do is make baby gowns for children who were born not living, so that they can be buried in a spectacular baby gown. So I'd like to thank everybody on this council for highlighting this issue. Like I say, as a family, we've gone through it several times and I know how difficult it is and that's why I wanted a baby loss charity as my charity of the year. Thank you.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Gerard. From a public health perspective, I mean, we are looking at ways to support this client group across Wigan. I mean, what we do know is that it has to be led by those with a lived experience. It's no good people coming in who don't know what the feeling's like. And what I will make sure, Madam Mayor, is that Councillor Gerard and Councillor Jones are the seconder. Every member will get an opportunity to voice what they feel the Wigan Borough should be how should they be shaping the support. So, but yeah, so thanks, Councillor. I'll make sure you get that information. All right.
Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It kind of puts into reality, doesn't it, all the other things that we've discussed tonight, knowing that friends, colleagues, family members go through this journey, which is a very unpleasant journey, and we know on this side of the chamber tonight, two of our colleagues who are actually going through something very similar in terms of grief. But can I just say, and we will pledge on behalf of the council, that we will support and we will do everything we can in the awareness about certainly baby loss, because I think it's so significant in terms of effect it has on people's lives. And a big thank you to you, Councillor Gerard, and certainly Councillor Gregory for telling her story, and Councillor Cleve from when she was the mayor and the charity that she put there as the mayoral charity. Because I think it's so important that we do recognise this. It's not something that just goes away. As Councillor Gerard knows, it's something that lives with you for many, many years to come, and the memory will never disappear. So, Madam Mayor, I'm sure it'll be 100% in this council chamber tonight who support this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gerard, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Gregory, Cleve and Fletcher, for your input, and the information be well received. I just like to thank everyone for the support. Obviously, if you do vote for the motion tonight, I don't really want to speak any more on it, but thank you.
Just before we move to the vote, I would like to say I know it's affected a lot of people in the room tonight. I've lost 4, and as long ago as it still affects you. Even, you know, 2 were quite late. So if anyone is affected, please reach out or stay behind and have a chat to someone at the end, and we'll make sure that we signpost you to the right place, because I can see that some people are upset, and you know, I'm feeling a bit that way myself at the moment. So I'm going to put this to the vote. Everyone in favour of the motion, please show your hands. That's unanimous. We don't need to ask any other questions. The motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Gerard. Second motion, the motion has been submitted by Councillor Flynn, which is set out on page 97 of the agenda. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I thought it was going to be difficult enough following the Youth Cabinet speaking earlier on with their excellent contributions. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for making the voice of young people heard in this chamber. But thank you to Councillor Gerard for bringing the motion. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you to Councillor Gregory and Councillor Cleve for having your voices. It's not easy to do this. It's very brave. Not everybody is able to share their experiences, but just thank you for doing that tonight, and thank you for bringing the motion. So on somewhat of a different note, buzzes. I'll do my best to follow it. 6:10 a.m. on a dark and rainy October morning at Stanyu of Wigan bus station is not the exact place you expect history to be made, but there I found myself 4 weeks ago, along with Councillor Conway and Councillor Reedy, for a truly momentous occasion to take the very first bus trip of the very first new bus in the whole of Greater Manchester B network.
And seen as Greater Manchester was the first area to bring back buses under local control, it may be the first new route under powers deriving from the Bus Services Act 2017 in the whole country. This is a great achievement for Wigan. The 615 is a new route running from Wigan Bus Station to Middlebrook Retail Park, serving Scholes, Welly, New Springs, Aspel and Horwich Parkway Station. And crucially, turning right at the finger post and serving Bolton Road and Dickinson Lane. That historic first trip was little over an hour going the way round, but it had been years in the making. In early 2020, Diamond Buses took the decision to cut the 715 route between Bolton and Wigan via West Orton and Aspel. There was no consultation. This was a commercial decision made by a commercial company with little regard for the public service nature of their business. This left thousands of residents in the Bolton Road area of Aspel marooned without any bus service at all. Bus stop signs changed from showing the 715 to school buses only. Families were forced to make decisions on their children's education based on where they could get lifts to or which school had a school bus. Elderly people couldn't independently access basic facilities such as the GP or shops without walking over a mile. We even had residents who had to quit their job because they couldn't get to their place of work any longer. Back then and in the intervening years as local councillors and campaigners, we made representations to Diamond Buses, Transport for Greater Manchester and the Mayor of Greater Manchester, but there was little to be done until buses were back under local control and the route decisions were no longer purely motivated by profit. We are happy in Wigan and Bolton to have been the first two boroughs to become part of the B network back in September 2023. And on the back of the B network beginning in Wigan, we wrote again to Andy Burnham and TFGM, highlighting the issues for Bolton Road residents. We garnered support from Councillor Paul Prescott as our portfolio holder for transport and our local MP, Lisa Nandy, who both added their voices to our request. And I thank them for the part they played in achieving this new service. I want to thank Andy Burnham and the CEO of TFGM for meeting with us at the end of last year. Andy was well aware of the issue from our previous lobbying and from when he visited Aspel in 2021 and we took him to Bolton Road to understand the issue for himself. And it was thanks to his leadership and direction that we set off on a 10-month journey of numerous meetings with TFGM officers who worked with us to get the new bus we see today. And I want to pay tribute to those officers and the other officers who worked behind the scenes. There were many hurdles to jump over to get the first new bus route, but they persevered, and on behalf of myself, Ron and Chris, and all the residents who've benefited from the new bus, a huge thank you. The service to Middlebrook is so welcomed by residents in Aspel, New Springs and Welly, who live closer to that retail park than Robin Park, and it's one of the few this bus is one of the few that has a stop at Horwich Parkway Station, with bus times linked to meet the train times from Manchester. And it's hoped that the Middlebrook link will ensure that the route is popular. And so far, the response has been fantastic. And that moment that the bus turned down Bolton Road on that first trip in October and served these bus stops for the first time in nearly 5 years was really quite something to be proud of. It's not perfect. There are limitations in the service and we hope it can run on Sundays and later in the evenings in the future, but it's literally been life-changing, opening up education options and job opportunities. And it wouldn't have been possible without buses brought back under local control by our Labour Mayor in Greater Manchester. But there is more to do, both in Aspel, New Springs and Welly and across Wigan Borough. The B Network is conducting a network review of routes and services which local councillors and the public can feed into by emailing network.reviews@tfgm.com. Locally, we've asked for a return of the 613 extension up Platt Lane in Welly, a bus linking Aspel and Hindley via a Hall Lane to provide a route for residents in Pennington Green who were the right to service, and a bus between Aspel and Standish to service Red Rock, and a bus to Hay Hall. Across the borough, if you look at bus maps of Wigan and Lee, the routes are incredibly radial. The majority of routes go in and out of Wigan and Lee bus stations like hands on a clock. This motion is calling for a rethink of this and looking at how we can link our outlying towns and villages with each other, such as Aspel with Standish and Aspel with Hindley. Linking those numbers on the outside of the clock, so to speak.
This is particularly important where services are shared across areas. For example, people in the Mill Lane and Pennington Green area of Aspel use the doctors at Pennygate in Hinley, but they can't access it via public transport. And Hinley train station is so close to Aspel, and it could open up opportunities for employment, education and travel. It is vital that there is a bus link to Hinley station from Aspel in the near future. The Horwich Parkway stop of the 615 service shows that a move towards an integrated transport system, and the aim is to bring trains into the B network in the next couple of years. So let's have the buses to match. I'm really pleased to see the £2 fare cap being retained in the B network and the hopper fare, making it truly integrated bus travel so that you can switch buses within an hour and you don't have to pay a second time, making it as affordable and as accessible as possible to travel via bus. But in this motion, I want to highlight a particular component that is somewhat unique to Wigan compared to other Greater Manchester boroughs, due to our location on the westernmost flank of the region. That we have many areas and many residents who live close to and bordering other local authorities who are not part of the B network. The ward I represent, Aspel, New Springs and Whalley, we border Bolton in Greater Manchester, but we also border Chorley in Lancashire. And as a borough, Wigan boroughs Salford and Bolton in GM. And the transport links are good and will hopefully be improved under the B network. But we also border Chorley, West Lancashire, St Helens and Warrington. It's incredibly positive that our internal and cross-borough services are improving through the B network, and this is shown by the 615 route linking Wigan and Bolton. But we need a strategy and the determination in place to ensure that we look outwards to our neighbouring non-Greater Manchester boroughs as well. With Liverpool City Region following Greater Manchester's lead and bus franchising under local control coming to St Helens in 2026, we'd be hopeful cooperation can be achieved there for the benefit of the Bill International areas, but we need to make sure this is achieved with other neighbouring authorities. We ask for the support of elected members from all over the borough to add your voice to this call, to ensure that buses for all residents in all areas are the best that they can be. The B network constitution and structures promised increased opportunities for communities to influence transport policy, and the creation of the 615 route shows that this promise is being kept and is hopefully a sign of things to come. But let's push for more. Let's reach further. Let's get the best for our residents. I really hope you'll support this motion. Thank the Mayor and thank Transport for Greater Manchester for what they've done so far and what they're planning to do, but highlighting formally and collectively what Wigan Borough residents need us to do to work with other local authorities and ensure all our transport links are the best that they should be. Thank you.
Is the motion seconded?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to reply.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. We've received an amendment to the motion prior to the 12 p.m. deadline yesterday from Councillor Fish, which has been seconded by Councillor Watson. Councillor Fish, please can you read out your proposed amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the amendment of the motion is pretty much as Councillor has already stated, but we've taken the part of the motion out that thanking both the Mayor and TFGM because, as I will pick up on in a moment, there's quite a lot of improvements that the B network needs to be made. So the motion is the Council resolves the right to the Mayor of Greater Manchester and TFGM to indicate a commitment for a better connectivity and accessible B network for our residents. We call for further improvement of the B network and expansion of bus services within this borough. We call for more links to train stations, links between our towns to ensure better transportation links that can benefit residents, in particular into other regional boundaries that neighbour Wigan. Some of the points we need to see better improvement and expansion of bus services that are vitally important to residents of this borough who rely on our public transport system. Our borough continues to grow. The need for an efficient, reliable and accessible public transport system that has never been more critical. Many residents in Wigan and surrounding areas rely on travel to neighbouring boroughs for work, education and services. However, the current lack of direct links can hinder mobility and limit opportunities. I believe that by improving these connections, we can foster greater regional collaboration and economic growth. Some of the key areas that we are asking both the TFGM and the B Network to look at is expanding bus routes and increasing service frequency to unreserved areas, ensuring that all residents have safe, reliable and affordable access to public transport. Enhancing bus stop facilities to ensure that all members of our community, including those with disabilities, can easily use our bus services. Establishing new routes that connect Wigan with neighbouring boroughs not currently served by the B Network, making it easier for residents to access jobs and services. Working with transport authorities in adjacent boroughs to synchronise schedules to improve service frequency, ensuring seamless travel for passengers. Upgrading transport hubs and bus stops to accommodate increased traffic and ensure accessibility for all users. And conducting surveys and community consultations to gather feedback on transport needs and preferences, ensuring that services are tailored to the demands of residents. However, Madam Mayor, we must bring to the attention of the Mayor the significant operational challenges currently facing our public transportation network. We have witnessed troubling increase in the number of buses failing to operate, with numerous vehicles breaking down and constantly missing services, which impacts our residents who are late for school, college or work, with some residents needing to use taxis. Price increases. Since the BNet was introduced, some of our residents have seen to pay over £400 more per year on a yearly bus pass, which is not what the BNet was introduced for. Drivers in different depots are receiving different rates of pay and working conditions, contributing to low morale and prompting experienced drivers to leave the industry. Some drivers are currently paid less than you would receive stacking shelves in a supermarket. Additionally, it is concerning that not a single driver is eligible to participate in the TFGM pension scheme, despite operating under the TFGM banner and fulfilling obligations dictated by their policies. This lack of benefit for drivers is simply unacceptable for our transport network and to effectively serve our communities, particularly in getting individuals into their places of work, hospitals and vital transport hubs. And finally, Madam Mayor, without tackling these fundamental problems, our aspirations for an expanded and effective network will remain nothing more than a distant dream. Therefore, whilst efforts have already been made with the B Network and the commitment to improving public transport in Greater Manchester, however, I believe that further investment and focus on a bus service in Wigan will significantly enhance connectivity and the quality of life for our residents. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is the amendment seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right, Councillor?
I'll speak now, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this. And may I just say, Councillor Flynn, what a brilliant motion this is. It really is a good, solid motion, but I just feel that Councillor Fisher's amendment builds on this motion by emphasising that public transport needs to be accessible for all in order to be successfully utilised. Now, I also agree in the connectivity, because I think within Greater Manchester, we almost get fixated in terms of, when we're talking to combined authorities, getting everybody into the city centre of Manchester. So I was looking at a two-tier problem here. You've always got the inner ring circle with the M60, inner Manchester, Greater Manchester, and outer Greater Manchester. So I'm fully supportive of what you're saying there, them interconnected ways, even expanding into other areas as well. But I'd also like to build, and we need to build on our borough strengths as well. For example, access to Hay Hall. Once this renovation's underway, how are we going to get there through public transport, more connectivity with our GPs, hospitals, to provide them better local services. Now, since deregulation of buses in 1986, private operators, they've often favoured profits over public services, and this led to higher ticket prices for commuters and a focus on profitable routes, often neglecting the less populated and economically disadvantaged areas as a result of corporate greed. Let's be fair, that's effectively what it was. Thus creating a postcode lottery where some areas enjoyed good services whereas others, mainly in the more deprived areas of the borough, face limited options. Now, as a result, the less profitable routes in Wigan saw reduced frequency in services, or services were withdrawn altogether, particularly, like I say, in the more financially vulnerable areas where a majority of our ageing population live. Now, I can remember, and I know don't look it, but I remember the little gem buses. And I see Councillor Leader there saying you do look it. But now, and these were very successful. They used to cut around, what were they, about big minibuses? Or I don't know what I actually call them. Were they minibuses? Were they buses? They were like a hybrid in between, weren't they? To hold about 30 people. And they were very successful. So I'd welcome something in the line of them returning as well. So, yeah, I welcome the exception of the B network, but we've got to admit it has encountered some teething problems in its early start. We've delayed services, mainly due to depot and coordination issues. But under the B network, we need to put an emphasis, and we need to move past profitability over coverage and create a network that's accessible for all. So a network that's affordable, a network that's reliable, and a network that's accessible, with the emphasis being accessibility. And I've just come up with a new slogan for it. Access for success. So thank you, Madam Mayor. I hope you support the amendment to the motion.
Councillor Flynn, do you accept the amendment to your motion, and can you outline why you do or do not accept the amendment to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Watson and Councillor Fish for their comments in support of my motion. I really don't understand, though, why you couldn't have saved that for the main debate of the motion. Madam Mayor, I'm not accepting the motion. It feels like it's rearranging the words of what my motion is. It's not adding to the motion. It's not differing from the motion. The one difference is it's taking out saying thank you to the Mayor, but also to the staff and officers of Transport for Greater Manchester, who I think deserve a thank you for the political decisions and the implementation that the officers have made going into it. So I think that's quite an important thing to have in the motion, and I'd like to keep it. So yeah, I will not be, it's like I say, it's not adding, it's not changing anything. So I respectfully will not be accepting the amendment. Thank you.
As Councillor Flynn does not accept the amendment, we'll move to the vote on the motion. All those in favour? Oh, I'm sorry, of the amended, sorry, it's been a long night. All those in favour of accepting the amended motion, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that amendment is lost, and we'll now go back to the original motion. Do any members wish to speak on the original motion? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm conscious I've already spoke, so I'll just try and be brief. I think Councillor Fish gave the game away very early doors there in terms of the thanking. So it's what we know in the trade union movement. This is like a wrecking amendment, but you agree with it, so but you don't want to. So all those things that you spoke about, and rightly so, Councillor Watson, right, bang on the money, the improving, enhancing, making it cost effective, all that. And I absolutely agree in terms of what Maggie Thatcher did in privatising the bus route. Absolute disaster. You know, it just became business, was, you know, passengers was second best, and it was just, as you say, rightly said, it was for profit. So your only objection to this, really, as much as it pains you, and it shouldn't really, you've got to give credit when a Labour initiative comes and it's good for everybody. The fact that it's a Labour mayor that's done it shouldn't stop you from voting for this. So, and I know some of you guys have got the ability to do that and just take the blinkers off and not be blinded by it. So I do hope you can actually support the motion, but I will, as we've already said, the amendment really, it was just to take the thanking of the Labour mayor out and the fact that the Labour Party's behind this sort of policy. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this subject, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I would like to place on record my thanks to Councillor Flynn for her very well constructed and delivered motion this evening, and I fully support this motion. And before moving on to just outline a Loughton East perspective, I would like also to place on record that I pay tribute to all of those who work in public transport, who provide a vital service. I speak this evening on behalf of the many residents in Loughton who commute to and from work, many of whom use public transport, and many of whom travel to work by car. Over the last few years, many more people have moved into Loughton, not just because it's a great place to live, but because of its proximity to the M6, the M62, and Newton-le-Willows railway station. Now, Newton Station is actually situated in Merseyside, just over the border, as you were alluding to earlier, Laura. And it has been redeveloped in recent years and has free car parking. The issue there is that it's become so attractive, if you're not there by 8:15 in the morning, you will struggle to get a parking place. And like many Loughton residents, I too travel first by car and then by train each day to commute to and from my place of work. And I'm also aware that currently there are many more residents who live not just in Loughton, but also in the immediate surrounding area who wish to use Newton Station for both work and leisure purposes. And whilst it is fantastic news that the plans have now been submitted to build Goulburn Railway Station, clearly this is still several years away from completion, and therefore many people will still have to rely on existing transport infrastructure to commute to and from both Manchester and Liverpool. And we must not forget that for people who live in Leigh, Leigh remains the largest town in the United Kingdom without a railway station. So, further improvements in public transport provision are quite clearly required. Many residents in Loughton complain of poor connectivity to and from Newton Station. They would like to see a greater frequency of the number 34 bus, which is the St Helens to Leigh, Leigh to St Helens bus, which stops at Newton Station. And they have complained to me and to my fellow Loughton East councillors that they would like to see buses running later than they currently do 7 days per week. Loughton residents feel constrained by these current arrangements. And in an age of flexible working, some residents have told me that they sometimes have no choice but to walk 3 to 4 miles home from Newton Station after either working later or having had a night out in Manchester and Liverpool because there are no buses to get them home. So, I ask the question, can the B network provide additional buses to address this issue, or do we need to work more closely with Arriva on this? And until we do, there will still be a heavy dependency on travelling to and from work by car. So as a consequence, residents in Loughton complain of long delays, being stuck in traffic on St Helens Road, Newton Road, Sandy Lane, Winnick Lane, Church Lane, Stonecross Lane South and North at peak times. So, further improvements in public transport provision are required. And clearly, an improved bus and rail service will better connect Loughton residents to jobs, education and leisure activities. And research suggests that the frequency, reliability and availability of public transport routes is a significant factor in encouraging public transport use. I believe it is vital that we as a council continue to promote inclusive, accessible and safe modes of public transport. I fully support the motion this evening. Thank you.
Councillor Merritt.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak, and thank you, Councillor Flynn, for this really excellent motion, which I totally support. I just want to say why I totally support it. First of all, you'll be well aware that we three councillors in Goulburn and Loughton West are extremely grateful for the support we've had from the Mayor and the Council to bring about the reopening of Goulburn Station, which is planned for 2027. Goulburn, I mean, like Loughton and Ashton maybe, is an area which is on the outskirts of Greater Manchester and which is one of those areas which it borders several other local authorities. And so, you know, the point that Councillor Flynn made about the connectivity to that station for us with improved bus services is going to be absolutely vital. So it is really important. We do welcome the the B-line. We do welcome it. We are really glad that buses have now been re-regulated and we're getting the kinds of services we want, but we do have to say that there is a way to go. And some of so for example, children who go to Goulburn High, who live in Abram, their bus service has been cut from hourly to half hourly to hourly recently, and that's caused them a whole range of problems there, and that's because that is not a B-line bus service. So we still have some issues in those border areas with effective bus services to you know, to schools and work and so on. So I do think there's a way to go, and I am pleased that you've raised that. And I think that, you know, we'll all work together to try and bring about those improved services and better connectivity. You know, Goulburn and Loughton have had a really poor bus service. We've got no direct bus to Manchester or Liverpool or anywhere really at the minute. So we are looking to see much improved connectivity, and when that station opens, you know, the options for people to get to that station and to get to Manchester are going to be there. So thank you very much for this. We really welcome the things that you've said tonight.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Thank you, Councillor Flynn, for bringing this motion to the Chamber. And obviously I've got a bit of an interest in this. I used to drive the 715 many years ago, and the link that you were talking about, it was very rarely used. I think Councillor Reedy can back me up on that, and that's why it was pulled, because TFGM pulled the subsidy on it. You've got to remember, a lot of these routes what were lost during commercialisation was down to TFGM not subsidising a lot of the routes. So as a business, you're not going to keep making a loss, so that's why they were cut. So obviously now we've got the B network, where in the past it was all about competition. You know, it was a bit of a cutthroat business, especially in the city centre of Manchester. But now, obviously, we're going to have a bit more of a joined-up thinking approach and hopefully have a proper network that we can be proud of. And I have actually thanked Andy Burnham late last year. Well, when I say thanks, I mean, you know, at least congratulated him at an event in Atherton. But to allow the network to expand, you've got to get the fundamentals right. And Councillor Hunt, who spoke earlier, obviously a trade union like myself, you've got to get the workers in to allow it to expand. You're not going to expand a network when you've not got enough drivers. You know, you want 24/7 buses, you want extra buses on, as you mentioned there earlier. Buses do not drive themselves, well, not yet anyway, you know. And bus drivers, we get a pretty poor end of the stick, really. Our work-life balance is all over the show. Permanent pressures on drivers to meet targets. And obviously, like I've just said, we need permanent drivers, not agency drivers, which is a lot of the B network is being held together with at the moment, who are on quite a lot of money compared to new starters who are just above minimum wage. And there is a vast difference. I'll not expand on what it is here because that'll be a bit unfair. But if we are expanding the network, as we've mentioned before, we've got to access different areas such as employment areas in Atherton. Just up the road, we've got Cutacre, a big industrial area creating thousands of jobs, but not yet one bus runs from Lee, Atherton or Tilsley direct to Cutacre. And I've mentioned it to TFGM, I've copied in all the local councillors about where it can go, and just to Cutacre, but to Bolton Hospital as well, which is just up the road, which no direct bus service. It's a crying shame. And a lot of this is going back to commercialisation, where a lot of the routes were pulled because they weren't subsidised. But hopefully, going forward, can remedy that. But in 16 months, there's been only one new route, and it's worth noting that that really is going to take shoppers out of Wigan into Middlebrook. You know, and I think, congratulate, that might be a bit thingy, but getting people to the doctors and what have you, that might be okay. Newton Station, yeah, it's just outside of the borough, out of the B network. But Councillor Flynn must know, well, Councillor Reid, we do already have B network buses going into Lancashire, which is namely the 640 and 641, which go to through Appley Bridge and places like that, and into Wrightington Hospital, which is in Lancashire. You know, and the 635 in an evening does actually go into Lancashire, so it can be done. And I've only last night I've asked, because in Atherton we've got just the 582 to get to Bolton, what have you. We're pretty stranded where we are to get to these places. So I've asked for also as well about a bus going from that Cutacre through Atherton into Lee and on to Newton, where it can turn around and come back. But these can only happen with the support. So rather than just, as well as thanking Andy Burnham for this network, which will be a success once it's going, we also have to highlight the issues that are remaining below what you can't see, which is inside the depots, where lots of managers are doing great jobs, keeping the thing ticking over. Loads of drivers working the socks off doing overtime. And I think before we add more pressure onto them, we need to ask Andy Burnham to step in and look at pensions, even stuff like drivers being able to get on the train or the tram. You know, we're all on the TFGM banner, but we still have to pay for getting on the trams and stuff like that. So if we can add that to the letter, and thanking him, but just highlighting, it'd be much welcomed from a personal and professional point of view. Thank you.
Councillor McSteen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few comments. I think it'd be very easy for members, all members in here, to stand up and give a large list of issues with public transport in their wards, which I'm definitely not going to do now. A couple of key points that I've noticed through this debate is the things that we continually lobby for within our ward and outside of areas, particularly issues with, and I remember back to the glory days of the busway wars, what a glorious success the guided busway has actually turned into. However, its success is also creating some issues, particularly with the V1 and the V2. Just touch briefly on a couple of them. Councillor Watson mentioned a moment ago about issues with particularly a lot of services prioritising both inner and outer Greater Manchester. With the V1 and the V2 services running between both of those, I'm seeing getting frequent complaints from residents about bus services being taken up in the city centre by residents of inner city suburbs and people in Lee and Atherton not being able to get a seat on the service to travel the entire length of it. This is something we've lobbied for, but I do think it's a big priority and it's a big issue that's causing problems for a lot of residents. I've also welcomed Councillor Anderson mentioning at full council last year about the Metrolink being extended, and I still in the back of my mind continually remember that push for and the logical argument for the Metrolink's expanding north, it's expanding east, it's expanding south. Why is it not expanding west? And it's a pressing issue that lots of residents talk to us about as well. It's very easy for us to talk about, you know, and to continue banding about if we had £1 for every time somebody said, and thank you to Councillor Lloyd for getting it, I'll take my £1 off you later, for Lee being the largest town in the UK without a train station. We'd be able to afford a lot more infrastructure. Back to a specific ward level in Atherton, we're continuing to advocate, as our colleagues across the way, service issues around there. In particular, specifically with the V2 service, we're continuing to lobby for, well, we lobbied pretty hard, I think all of us did, on getting the V2 service back, and that's something that came from the pressure that I know a lot of us applied and a lot of residents applied. We finally got that back, but we have a new issue that's been created, and that's notably that as a terminus of a major bus service, a landmark bus service, there is no park and ride at Atherton. There is at Lee, there is at Tilsley, there's one in the middle of the East Lancs, which, to be honest, I don't see a huge amount of people using, but there is nothing at Atherton, and as a result, residents there, it's pretty commonly known now that people are utilising the main council car park there. There's no time limit for that, and as a result, it's creating problems for Market Street, the daytime and the nighttime economy at times. So that's something that we're pressing TFGM on. Another thing that we get frequent complaints about is the lack of parking at Atherton Station, something that we've continually pushed for and mentioned in comments as well. One thing I'll just touch upon briefly before I sit down. Councillor Fish mentioned in his amendment about people not being able to afford annual passes. It would be remiss of me not to mention some of the initiatives that are going on within the borough with Unified Credit Union at the moment. They're offering to help people with annual passes, which, to be honest, even for myself, I would find, for the most part, unaffordable to just go out and buy an annual pass. You can do that now through Unified Credit Union on a pay monthly basis, and I'd encourage any resident or any member in here who wants to help residents out if they're finding things unaffordable, to ask them to explore that with Unified Credit Union. It's a unique offer that we have in the borough, and I think it's something that we should all press for. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kevin Anderson.
Madam Mayor, I think that there is a shopping list growing in terms of improvements we want to see to bus and rail services, and I'm going to just reinforce one of those. First of all, I just want to thank Councillor Flynn for moving this important motion. He obviously has my full support. A few years ago, I actually helped in conducting a national travel survey in Aspel, and improved bus services came out as a priority for local residents. I also want to thank Councillor Gary Lloyd for his important contribution. Improved public transport connectivity with Newton Willows railway station is important. It's a gateway to Liverpool, Chester and beyond. And it's also a priority for many residents in the Lee South Ward as well, which neighbours Loughton East. The fact that train services continue until midnight, but connecting bus services stop in the early evening with no services on a Sunday or bank holidays is an issue which does need addressing fairly urgently. I've personally spoken to the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, and Steve Rotherham, the Liverpool City Region Mayor, on this issue. They both need to work together to help resolve this and other issues, along with the respective transport authorities. As Councillor Lloyd said, Lee is the biggest town in the country without a railway station, and also has no access to the Metrolink service. It is essential that public transport improvements are not just Manchester City or Liverpool City centric. They need to connect across boundaries, and here in Wigan we're at the west external point of Greater Manchester, and we have, as has been pointed out before, we have several neighbouring authorities in different areas which we need to connect with properly to ensure people have an alternative to the car. Thank you.
Councillor Anderton.
After Anderson, there's Anderton, isn't there? So just, I don't want to be the damp squid to my colleagues, but just the leader's been in my ear. Lee is one of the biggest towns, not the biggest town that doesn't have a train station, but still we advocate for that as well. I think Gosport and Dudley, I think, are other towns which also need train stations and don't have them, but we are still one of the biggest that doesn't have a train station. But I think I'm very pleased, and I'll wait for Councillor Collins to probably stand up and probably say what I'm going to do now. No one's mentioned safety, sorry, Councillor Davis as well. No one's mentioned safety yet, because I think there's been a very big investment, along with the expansion of the B network and it coming back in, we've been able to take control as well of that safety aspect. And the Travel Safe Partnership has been really, really effective working with GMP, but also with the marshals as well, which are kind of taking place and being on certain services at very random times as well. So please don't say anything about safety, but please do let us know if there is any other issues as well. But I just wanted to add that as this network expands, I have also sought out assurances from the Greater Manchester Police Fire and Crime Panel, for example, and the other B network forums that link into that as we do expand, as we expand night services on the B1 into Leah's night services from, I think it's the 34, not 34, is it 34 to Manchester? Or the one that comes from Wigan, originates in Wigan, as that runs through the night as well, that we are keeping people safe and they can feel safe to use this transportation as well. So I fully support the motion, Councillor Flynn.
Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the Environment Places Committee, we was mentioning about the new road network going from Wigan motorways over to Bolton. Now, I do know that we passed this, and I do know that, you know, over the next few years, we are going to get more people on them roads. What we do need, and I totally agree, that we do need this network to be sorted, not just for now, but for the future of our younger generations as well. So I think most of that's been said. Can I just mention that a big thank you goes to Councillor Flynn, because it was Councillor Flynn and Chris who came to Lawrence, Mike and myself, who our ward is on the opposite side of the Aspel ward, Welly, and mentioned about the new Middlebrook bus service. Big thank you to Councillor Flynn, because we got the actual timetables, and what Lawrence, Mike and Murray and myself did, we went round to our residents, and our residents were so delighted with this bus service that they were saying thank you, but also thank you to Andy. But I want to say also thank you to the residents who's using this bus service, but also thank you to my mate over there, who I'm going to be supporting. Councillor Flynn, carry on. We've done a great job, and I'm hoping that, you know, we do more for our residents out there. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. The problems in Oral Ward are similar to the problems that Councillor Lloyd highlighted in Lawton, because we are on the border between Greater Manchester, we've got a border, Greater Manchester's border with Lancashire and with Merseyside, and the buses at times are very much hit and miss. Most of our buses are controlled by Arriva. Oral Station trains stop at 7 o'clock at night, so your life stops at 7. If you can't go to Liverpool or Manchester, your life stops at 7 o'clock because Oral Station shuts. We've no direct service to Manchester, and residents years ago, and I remember the little gem buses that Councillor Watson referred to. We had a good service during the day with Little Gem, and that disappeared. And St James's Road in Orrell, the estates that border it, most of the residents are older people, and they're having to walk perhaps nearly half a mile to the bus stops in some instances. So, you know, I do get a lot of complaints about that, and I also get a lot of complaints about people wanting to go to Skelmersdale and to Ormskirk on the 387, which also crosses the border. So I will be supporting Councillor Flynn's motion, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm only going to make one quick point, and really as much... yeah, check-in tickets, yeah, not today. All around the chamber, and actually people have been talking about individual things. What we've got to remember here, 40 years of privatisation of the bus services, and Andy, I keep mentioning Andy and TFGM have only had 16 months to overturn that. So it will take time. It'll take time to do all them routes. But don't forget, it was 1986 when Mrs Thatcher brought this in and ruined the transport system. And all that money went to shareholders and everything. This is a turnaround now. It's the first time, but it will take time and there will be teething problems. But it is for the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Vickers, you reserved your right. Would you like to speak now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I certainly would. And I'd like to thank everybody who's contributed to the debate tonight for throwing that much at me that I can't even begin to think how I'm going to respond. So I'll respond in this way. As has quite rightly been said, especially by Councillor Reedy, this is the first time in 40 years that we have taken control of our own bus network. And over 40 years, as quite rightly been said, the profits made by the buses went into the pockets of the shareholders, not into the services for the people who use those transports. So now we're in a different situation. Franchising hasn't finished yet. The last part of the franchising doesn't come into effect until January next year, and that's for the southern half of it. But being as Wigan and Leigh and Bolton as well, being the first part, we get the first go at redoing our bus services through the network review. And at the same time, there is also the refreshing of the Greater Manchester Local Travel Plan, which deals with issues like reliability, affordability and accessibility. And we all have the opportunity to get involved in both these network review and the travel plan. So for everybody who's spoken tonight about individual concerns, I just say get involved with the consultations. The network review consultation is due to start in the new year. You can already get involved in the local travel plan consultation. Put your views forward. I mean, say I come from Inley Green, which is one of the worst places for public transport that there is in all of the borough. And I've already put my representations in, and those are being taken on board. And when the consultation comes out, those will be reflected in what comes out in the documentation. And like I say, it's like the lottery. You've got to be in it to win it. So put your views forward. You know, things like the public safety on transport, it's already being addressed by the B Network Committee. For 2 years, I've been on the Transport Committee and then the B Network Committee, and I have been championing the case for Metrolink to come into the Wigan Borough. And now, an option to bring a line into Leigh is now in the strategy going forward for the future. So, it's all about making your voices known, saying what you want for your residents, because that's what we're here to do, to represent our residents, to get the best transport system we can for everybody, so that it'll improve job prospects, it'll improve our town centres, it'll improve cross-border connectivity. So we all need to get involved. The portals are already open. We all have access to this information. We all have access to influence what's happening in Wigan. And the network review is a living document, so it won't just happen once. When it comes round again, we'll look at what's been good, we'll look at what's been bad, and we'll refresh it. So we're evolving the transfer systems for Wigan, Leigh and the surrounding areas for the people of Wigan, and take it not only into the 21st century, but further into the 22nd century. So obviously, you must vote for this motion. Thank you very much.
Councillor Flynn, I invite you to sum up on the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak, and thank you for all the members who have contributed so well tonight. Unfortunately, I can't respond to Councillor Fish and Councillor Rotston because they did not contribute to the debate. But thank you to Councillor Hunt and to Councillor Reedy and to Councillor Vickers, who all made the really important point that it is the privatisation that was undertaken in the 1980s by the Thatcher government that caused the issues that we've seen with these buses, and it is only with the Labour Mayor of Greater Manchester taking buses back under local control that we have been able to achieve at least one new route, and I hope that's the beginning of things to come. Thank you very much, Councillor Lloyd, for representing your constituents in Lowton East so well and talking about that really important issue about A, getting to train stations, but B, getting to train stations in different authorities in different city regions. And I'm so hopeful that we can have the plans that are happening for Liverpool City region, which is very much following the lead of Greater Manchester. That will solve some of the issues for your residents trying to get to Newton and Willows. And just having, like I say, having the trains and the buses linking up, having the bus networks to match the trains, to have the train timetables coming together, which is something that Councillor Merritt referred to as well, which I'm really grateful for. Thank you. So Councillor Gerard, talking about the 715 being rarely used and being subsidised, that absolutely is an issue. We've been saying to our residents locally they need to be using the bus, but I think there's one crucial thing here, and this is one of the differences with the B network. It's not bringing back the 715 route. It's mirroring a lot of it, but it's a different route at the end of the day. It's not going via Wingates and Industrial Estate, it's going to Middlebrook Retail Park. And that is very much listening to communities, having local residents being able to feed into it and having us as local councillors making those representations. We fought and we asked for a bus service to Middlebrook. You say it's taking shoppers out of Bolton Town Centre, out of Wigan Town Centre, but if you live in Aspel, you're less than 10 minutes from Middlebrook. You're like 15, 20 minutes sometimes into Wigan Town Centre. And even further to Robin Park. So for our residents locally, that is what they need, that is what they want. And that bus service linking to Horwich Parkway, because not every bus that goes to Middlebrook stops at Horwich Parkway, so we really push for that in terms of having the link. And the fact that the timetable is devised to meet trains coming from Manchester, so commuters and shoppers and everyone can benefit from that, I think is really, really positive. I'm sorry to hear about the issue locally that you've got about not having the route linking Lee and Abberton and Tilsley. If you want any advice or tips on how to achieve a new bus route, I'd be very happy to speak to you and give you the benefit of my experience. Councillor Anderson, I do remember you telling me about your work survey in residents in Aspel and how they mentioned about the bus services. And just to say that this is an issue that predates my time as a councillor, but it's something that I was fighting for before I was a councillor and something myself, Ron and Chris were absolutely determined to achieve for our residents who were completely marooned down Bolton Road with absolutely no bus service whatsoever. Having those signs a couple of weeks ago going from school buses only to having the 615 up there. I ran across the field and scared a TFGM worker because I was wanting to take photos of him. I was so excited. It was such a moment to achieve that, because literally we've had buses nearly not stopping for nearly 5 years. And the moment when it turned down Bolton Road on that first morning about 6:30 in the dark, fortunately it was in the dark, but I was quite emotional, to be honest, because what it meant to our residents and the amount of residents who'd been talking to us for years about it and how hard we'd worked for years about it. I was really proud that we've managed to achieve that, but thank you for your contribution. Thank you as always, Councillor Anderton, for reminding us about safety, and really good to hear about the work of the Travel Safety Partnership. George, I'm really glad that you were talking to Welly residents. Thank you for saying thank you to me, but honestly, we've done this for our residents in Welly, who we both share Welly, for Scholes, for New Springs, for Aspel, particularly for Bolton Road. And the response we've had has been so positive. We've been making sure we're out there, getting the timetable out there so people know about it, use it, delivering leaflets. Thank you for your help in delivering leaflets. And just hopefully it's really positive for our residents. And I think Councillor Collins really hit the nail on the head in terms of people want to get to Skem, they want to get to Ormskirk, they want to go in different ways. And thank you, Councillor Vickers, for seconding the motion and for bringing your experience in the Greater Manchester Transport Committee and the B Network Committee. You hit the nail on the head when you said that a lot of these things are in the Greater Manchester Travel Plan, and a lot of things that actually the people who tried to put forward the amendment we're talking about are already happening in terms of the travel plan. So let's have a positive motion. Let's have a motion that is asking for something different. We're specifically asking for this cross-authority working together. It does happen already with buses to Chorley. You missed out the 632 going through Standish. But let's celebrate what we've achieved. Let's celebrate what we've managed to achieve. Rolling back what's happened with the privatisation of the last 40 years and some real success stories, and let's make some real change to the lives of our residents. Thank you.
So can I put the motion to the vote, please? All those in favour, show your hands, please. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that motion is carried. Just before we finish for the night, I would like to just say thank you to all of those that have booked a festive afternoon tea with the Mayor in the Mayor's Parlour. Out of 60 tickets, we've only got about 5 left. So if you're interested, please email me tomorrow and I'll send you details, and Prosecco is involved. On that note, I'm going to conclude tonight's business. Have a safe journey home. Thank you, everyone.